Good morning. We are grateful to gather online this morning as the Unitarian Universalist Society for a time of music, inspirational words, reflection, and connection. I am John Bowman, your worship associate for this morning. If you are visiting our service today, welcome. We hope you'll find the service meaningful. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't all believe the same things, but we turn to 7 principles that guide us in living out our values in the world. One of these principles is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Today, we especially reflect on that principle as we honor the birthday and the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Diana Smith, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society, and it's wonderful to be with you all this morning. In these times of change, it is so important to be together, to come together as a spiritual community, to gain the sustenance that we each and all need, and to help nourish each other. As members of a covenantal faith that expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other, it is good to come together and to affirm that even when we cannot be together in body, this congregation remains strong and connected. To affirm that we have faith and hope in this congregation, in each other, and in the ways we continue to grow together during the challenges of life. And to affirm that wherever any of us is on our life's journey, whether we come to worship with joy in our hearts, weighted with burdens, in need of rest, or searching for others to engage in this struggle with us, we are glad, and this congregation is glad that we are here. And so, as we begin our service today, I share the words of the Reverend Howard Thurman, who wrote, "There are 2 questions that a person must ask themselves. The first is, where am I going? And the second is, who will go with me? If you ever get these questions in the wrong order, you are in trouble." And so, building on those words, we'll begin our service by singing "We'll Build a Land," hymn number 121 in your hymnal, hearing the words of the Hebrew prophets as they call to us down the centuries.
peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Please join me in the words for lighting the chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to serve those in need, this we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. Also each week, we light a candle for justice and healing. We hold space for our understanding of interdependence, that our liberation is bound up with every other person's liberation, and our feelings of rage and heartbreak over the ongoing pandemics of illness and racism, the devastation of climate chaos, and the waves of trauma washing over the world. We light this candle to help us hold space together for processing what is happening in our lives and in our world, and to remind ourselves that we are creating resilience and hope. We light this candle that we may not be numbed or lost to injustice, devastation, illness, and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love together to continue engaging with the struggles for liberation, justice, and healing. Today, as we light this candle, we are particularly mindful of the alarming growing number of COVID cases due to the extremely contagious Omicron variant. After I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps to lift up prayers.
Today, our time for all ages, Wake Up and Join the Revolution, is shared with us by Roddy Biggs and the Reverend Tiffany Sapp in partnership with Holston Valley UU Church and the Olympic UU Fellowship. These two brilliant folks wrote this funny story. I hope that you enjoy it. It has quotes from and connections with the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Our time for all ages this morning is an original story called Wake Up and Join the Revolution. It is, obviously, about a revolution and the way that some people work together
and some people didn't.
to make it happen.
Now, this revolution might not be one you've ever heard of, but of course it's true. I was there. The revolution came about in a dream of justice, of love and beloved community. A revolution where in fact it took all of us to build beloved community. So circle around and let us tell you a story about such a revolution.
Once upon a time, a long time ago, the earth did not spin.
No, really, it's true. But don't go looking it up in your history or science books. Just believe us.
This meant that one side of the planet was really hot and in the light all the time, and it wasn't good for anyone who lived on that half of the planet.
And the other half of the planet was really cold and in the dark all of the time. And it wasn't good for people who lived on that half of the planet.
In fact, the only place where anyone was really comfortable was right on the border between the hot light side and the cold dark side. This was prime real estate.
Only about 1% of people in the world's population ever got a spot near the border. And if they got it, of course they will never let go of it.
But the rest of the people who were either really hot or really cold were starting to talk to each other about how much they didn't like the situation. This is their story, their revolution to tell.
I have to stay inside as much as possible, use large amounts of sunblock, and the air conditioning bill is ridiculous. I wish I could do something about this.
Nothing even grows on my side of the planet. I'm so tired of importing food and being cold all the time. If I could only go to the mountaintop, then things might be different. We need a revolution.
A what?
A revolution. You know, a dramatic and wide-reaching change in the way something works or is organized.
Oh, I thought you meant the other definition. You know, the movement of an object in a circle or spinning around a center axis.
Wait a minute. Maybe that is what we need. Do you think if we could make the Earth revolve, then each of our places could be dark some of the time and light some of the time?
And so they invented a really neat scientific contraption called the Revomatic. And if enough people pushed on it, the earth would start spinning.
Do not ask us what it was or how it worked. Just trust us.
The point is that a lot of people needed to work together to make the revolution happen.
We've got a great start, but I think we need more help.
I think we need to ask some of those people over there.
And so they went to ask their friends who lived on the light-dark border if they would help with the revolution.
But they were napping through the entire thing.
Hey, y'all. We're trying to get the earth to turn so that we can all be a lot more comfortable. But we need more help. Can you come push our Revomatic with us?
Hey yourself. I was napping. Ugh, how rude can you be? I'm going back to sleep.
This is a way to make life better for all of us. Life over on the light side is really rough. Things are always so hot, and we need as many of us as possible to participate if things are going to get better.
I think you're exaggerating the problem. I've never had a problem with the light and the heat. Don't be so emotional about it. Be reasonable and polite. I can't believe you would interrupt my nap for this. I'm going back to sleep.
Well, that could have gone better.
Does this person speak for all of you?
Do you understand that we can't even grow our own food on my side of the planet? We're trying to fix this.
Wow, that is seriously awful. A shame, really. Yeah, I'll come help. A lack of food anywhere is a threat to food security everywhere.
And they did help.
Yeah, for 20 minutes.
You guys, this is seriously hard. And why are all the revomatics in these really hot places and these really cold places? I'm getting so tired and I need to get my temperature regulated. I'm going to go home and take a nap. Good luck. I'll pray for you.
But the folks that lived on the light and dark sides of the planet couldn't take a break and kept on pushing the revomatic, with occasional pauses to recruit from the borderlands. They knew all too well that our lives begin to end the day that we are silent about things that matter, when others turn away and sleep through the revolution.
And there were a lot of people irritated that we woke them up. And there were a lot of people who thought it was a good idea, but didn't really want to do the work themselves.
But there were some who stuck with it.
But there were those that thought they knew the best way to push the revomatic. They pushed the thing for, 5 minutes or so, and then they thought they knew a better way to do it.
And some of them eventually did learn to follow the lead of the people who had been pushing the revolution the longest.
And more people joined.
I think things are starting to shift.
I think the revolution is starting to work.
And the earth began to spin.
What happened?
Slept through the revolution. You stayed in the darkness.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
And the people saw all of their great work and called it a day.
So remember, loves, we are not the makers of history. We are made by history. We need not sleep through the revolution.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a speech in support of striking sanitation workers at Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee on April 3rd, 1968, the day before he was assassinated. The speech is known as his "I've Been to the Mountaintop" speech. We will now see the last couple of minutes of that stirring message.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
On this day of memory, of reflection, and of hope, I invite you into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Spirit of life and love, we come here today with hearts that are full of memory, full of wonder, full of gratitude, full of sorrow. We are grateful for the many gifts of this life, for the people we share our journeys with, whether we can be with them in body or not at this time. For the wonder of snow that falls, of skies that brighten, for the changing of the seasons, for the growing light, and the shining moon. And we come here today with many cares, wondering how we create community, how we create change, how we create more justice in these challenging times of so much distance. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, in these times, help us find connection, humility, wonder, and gratitude. Help us find ways to renew and sustain ourselves and all our communities, and live ever more deeply into our call, into the work of love and justice. Amen. Blessed be. Of 54 years, it can become easy to romanticize the past, glossing over some of the details. The reality of the Memphis sanitation workers' strike, which we heard a clip from before, indeed of the last few years of Reverend Dr. King's life, we could say of his entire struggle, was far from smooth and far from united. Reading a history of the strike, which I won't do here, but it is easy to do by Googling MLK Memphis Sanitation Strike, which I invite you to do after this service. Reading a history of the strike in many ways reads like a story of the racial justice movement, of protests today. The sanitation workers' struggle for safe working conditions, which hadn't gained the support of Memphis's religious community or middle class during the 2 years before the protests that included that speech that we heard, demonstrated the need for economic equality and social justice. Many in the U.S. believed that extending the struggle for civil rights to call for economic equality and social justice was taking the movement too far. Just as a year before, when Reverend Dr. King had raised his voice against the Vietnam War, including American colonialism and the pursuit of wealth over social justice and civil rights in his cause. The push for economic equality and social justice, the struggle for genuine equality, both in the U.S. and as we engaged around the world, was going too far. Now, this may feel familiar to us today as we engage in conversations and arguments about how much economic equality and social justice is enough, how far the struggle for justice goes, how confrontational protesters should be, how much we individually have to have figured out before we can engage in the struggle in the revolution, how much the struggles for justice are rooted in and called for by our spiritual values. These arguments, these struggles, have always been there. They were part of the civil rights, the voting rights struggles, just as they were when the movement became the Poor People's Campaign, as leaders saw that the goals of justice and human equality, so deeply rooted in our spiritual values and ethics, could not be achieved without economic equality and more expansive social justice. The uncertainty of how to engage with the call, how we live with intention and integrity, how much we must know of how the struggle will be viewed, or how success is to be achieved before we engage in the fight for injustice. This has always been a question, one that so many have wrestled with, some ending with joining the revolution, others ending with remaining asleep or joining briefly and then going home. Reverend Dr. King spoke of this struggle often, whether in his letter from Birmingham jail, when he clearly laid out why we can't wait, why the movement can't wait for justice to appear or to call for it politely, why we must engage in the struggle for justice even when we are uncertain or are in the process of deepening our path. And he spoke to this in his Beyond Vietnam speech, given a year before he was murdered. He spoke to the difficulty and importance of living with intention and speaking the truth he was discerning, even as people questioned it as a departure from what they thought he should be doing. In that speech, Reverend Dr. King said, "We are now faced with the fact, my friends, that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Life often leaves us standing bare, naked, and dejected with a lost opportunity. The tide in the affairs of men does not remain a flood, it ebbs. We may cry out desperately for time to pause in her passage, but time is adamant to every plea and rushes on. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numerous civilizations are written the pathetic words, 'too late.' There is an invisible book of life that faithfully records our vigilance or our neglect. Omar Khayyam is right. The moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on. We still have a choice today, nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. We must move past indecision to action. We must find new ways to speak for peace in Vietnam and justice throughout the developing world, a world that borders on our doors. If we do not act, we shall surely be dragged down the long, dark, and shameful corridors of time, reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. Now, let us begin. Now let us rededicate ourselves to the long and bitter but beautiful struggle for a new world. This is the calling of the sons of God, and our brothers wait eagerly for our response. Shall we say the odds are too great? Shall we tell them the struggle is too hard? Will our message be that the forces of American life mitigate against their arrival as full men, and we send our deepest regrets? Or will there be another message of longing, of hope, of solidarity with their yearnings, of commitment to their cause, whatever the cost? The choice is ours, and though we might prefer it otherwise, we must choose in this crucial moment of human history. The words of Reverend Dr. King. The choice is ours, and though we prefer it otherwise, we must choose in this crucial moment of human history. We must choose then. We must choose now. We need not know how the revolution will end. We simply need to join it, grounded in our deepest values and ethics. Today we continue the long and bitter but beautiful struggle for a new world, a new land. Today we continue to be confronted with the feeling that the odds are too great. But we can, and many of us are, listening to the other message that Reverend Dr. King spoke of, the message of longing, of hope, of solidarity with their yearnings, of commitment to the cause of equity, love, and justice, whatever the cost, of the ways that we can build a land where justice rolls down like water, peace like an ever-flowing stream. And so, may each of us, today, tomorrow, and in the coming year, find a place in the movement for equity, love, and justice that is ours. And may you find the strength and courage to follow it, to listen and be transformed by what you learn and witness, and to keep going in the long and bitter but beautiful struggle for justice. So may it be. Blessed be. Amen.
How we give, what we do with our lives, excuse me, our time, our resources, is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency this month is the Abbey Center for Community Mental Health. The professional staff at Abbey Center, located in the Towncrest area of Iowa City, seek to improve the lives in our community through the integration of mental health and wellness services. Physician, nurse practitioner, social worker services are available weekdays by appointment. On the screen, you'll see instructions for how to give online, or you may take this time to write a check and address an envelope to UUS to be put in the mail. If you're attending this service here in the sanctuary, you can give online, or there is a basket for checks in the atrium, and someone will help you find it after the service. You may assist our community partner, contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses, or contribute towards your pledge to our society. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is completely supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
Just back and forth with me. Put your weight onto your feet. Get into the ground. Resilience. We are strong. Resilience. We are strong. Shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Resilience. Make a new plan. Resilience. Make a new plan. Stand up again and say, yes, we can. Stand up again and say, yes, we can.
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is a time when particular songs get sung. One of them is Lift Every Voice and Sing. It is sung in school, in church, at various MLK Day celebrations, and over the course of Black History Month. It is a very, very powerful song, but it's often sung without context, and at times it is sung without a lot of intentionality. When you sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, do you pay close attention to the words? It's easy on a Sunday morning to open the hymnal and sing along without necessarily processing what we're saying. What the words we're saying really mean. Sing a song full of faith that the dark past has taught us. Bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. This song deserves to be sung with attention. It is a song that starkly names the horrors and violence of racism in this country. And it is a song that should make us uncomfortable. Uncomfortable with the history that it calls upon. Uncomfortable with the fact that the struggle for racial justice continues and has not come so far as it should have by now. How can anyone sing the words, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, without a deep, deep discomfort? So when we sing this song, will you join me in singing with intentionality? Will you join me in the deep discomfort that I will be feeling in singing these words? Discomfort with the pain and horror that those words refer back to, and discomfort with the fact that those words do not only refer to the distant history, but also to what is happening right now. Will you commit to sitting with your own discomfort? And then will you tap into this discomfort and do something? Will you lift your voice and sing until earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty?
Civil rights activist James Weldon Johnson wrote Lift Their Voice and Sing as a poem, which was set to music by his brother John Roseman Johnson in 1899. The song is now known as the Black National Anthem in America. It is a protest, a hymn, and a prayer of profound significance for our people. We lift every voice and sing to express ourselves. We lift every voice to show that we have strength in numbers and we will not be silent. We lift every voice and sing to be lifted, liberated, and free.
Freedom, the power to determine action without restraint. Freedom, the absence of or release from ties, obligations, or restrictions. Freedom, the ease or facility of movement or action. Freedom, frankness or boldness in manner or speech. Freedom, a political right. Until we are all free, none of us is free. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty.
for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
As we move out into this week, and especially today and tomorrow, as we celebrate and reflect on Martin Luther King Day, let us carry with us our theme this month, living with intention. May we reflect on what it means to live with intention in these times, to live with awareness of the past, grounded in our faith, our love, and our justice, and carrying these into the world today as we work to build a land of peace and justice. And so, may you go in peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into this world, today and all days. Amen, and blessed be. And now, as our choir leads us in our choral benediction, I invite you to share in it.